The Tulane Executive MBA program has given me the business acumen to perfectly complement my technical expertise, creating limitless career opportunities. I'm Claude Davis, Principal Scientist and official spokesperson for Zatarain's.
Major support for Out to Lunch is provided by the law firm of Jones Walker, established in 1937 with over 375 attorneys in offices throughout the U.S., providing a comprehensive range of services to a local, national, and international client base. JonesWalker.com. And by Shorten Associates, legal recruiters in Louisiana and Texas. And by Orange Theory Fitness, delivering fitness results for a healthier world.
From Commander's Palace Restaurant in the Garden District in New Orleans, we're out to lunch with Peter Ricchiuti. Peter Ricchiuti is Tulane University's A.B. Freeman School of Business professor and director of the award-winning Birkenroad Reports. It's business, New Orleans style.
Hi, I'm Peter Ricchiuti. Welcome to Out to Lunch. I want to start out by telling you about an interesting observation I made recently at the dry cleaner. I happened to be standing at the counter when a guy wheeled a big rack of freshly cleaned men's dress shirts out of the back, and almost every shirt was a shade of blue or white or some combination of blue and white. I said to the guy, "Do you do all the blue and white dress shirts at the same time?" And he said, "No, they're all blue and white because that's what everybody wears," which is really striking. Think about how many shades of brown, orange, purple, green, and every other colored dress shirt men could wear, but we don't. The blue and white dress shirts observation spills over into business in general, and maybe life itself. Although we're all making our own individual, unique decisions, those decisions, by and large, are confined to a narrow set of choices. Once in a while, however, you meet a person who has stepped outside those confines and made a bold and adventurous choice, like my guest, Matt Schwartz. Like many people, Matt goes to work in the morning, probably with a blue or white shirt, but what Matt does at work is bolder and more adventurous than most of us could imagine. Matt is the CEO of a company called Domain Companies. Matt co-founded the company out of college in 2004 with his fraternity brother, Chris Papamichael. Chris and Matt set out to build affordable housing. Today, they have developed over $1 billion worth of real estate. They have 130 employees, and their 14 local projects include the South Market District in the CBD, the Meridian on Tulane Avenue, Gold Seal Lofts in Mid-City, as well as 2 developments in Baton Rouge and 6 in New York. Matt, a lot has happened since we last met here in 2015. Welcome back to Out to Lunch.
Thank you.
Christina Belzebray could have decided on a safe and secure career as an employee at some very fine establishments. Christina started out as a baker at Satsuma Cafe in the Bywater. After that, she worked for Donald Link and made a name for herself as a baker at Willagene. In 2019, Christina went into business for herself, opening a bakery just off Magazine Street in the Garden District called Levé. Levé is spelled the same as levee, as in floodwall, but in French, levé means to rise. I'm getting so smart here. Levé has been an immediate success. The bakery already has 8 employees, and Christina is reportedly beyond excited at the prospect of having a day off. Christina, welcome Out to Lunch.
Thank you.
Now, Matt, we'll talk about the nuts and bolts of property development and the changing face of New Orleans real estate in a minute, but let's start by talking about my trip to the dry cleaner. Specifically, about what separates you from the rest of us in the blue and white shirts. You did the same MBA thousands of other people do. You could have done any number of things with your degree. You're a really smart guy. Even as a property developer, you could have had a very successful, small, hands-on business. What is it about you, do you think, that has given you the foresight or courage or whatever it is to hire 130 people and finance millions of dollars of real estate here and in New York?
Well, I think first we really have always wanted to take on projects that we're passionate about. For us, that has meant making a positive impact in the communities that we work in. We always choose communities that we're very tied to, closely tied to personally. So New Orleans, of course, is one of those. New York is another. And we really look at ourselves at being first and foremost in the community development business and really look for high impact projects that can make that positive impact. And by virtue of doing that, they're things that we and our team get very excited about are passionate about, can really throw ourselves into, and it makes the work we do every day fun to do.
And you came from related companies in New York. That's a big firm.
Right. Well, I was originally your student.
Oh yeah, that's so great. That's the thing.
You got to mention that.
Oh, I brag about that on street
you
corners.
got me to start going to class, so that was
Well, thank you. What did you learn? Not in our class, but what did you learn at Related that made you think you could that you had the chops to go do it yourself?
Yeah, well, Related was really my introduction to the affordable housing business. So, I started at Related when I graduated. I knew I wanted to go into development, but it was really there that I developed the passion for impact investing and community-driven investment and development. Related really taught me how to work with communities and how to align our interests with the interests of communities to make sure that we not only could achieve successful outcomes, but could also get the support of the people that we were working with and the neighborhoods that we were building in. So that, of course, was instrumental. That experience was instrumental post-Katrina, coming to New Orleans and really needing to generate that support, but have the support of the community in order for those projects to be successful. Without that, they never could have been.
You needed our support, but we needed you. There was no question about that. Christina, you're a great baker. You've proven that over the past few years, but when you're running your own business, having a great product is frankly, it's just the beginning. You can be the greatest baker in New Orleans, but if you don't have management skills, people won't want to work for you. If you don't have marketing skills, nobody will even know that you're open for business. LeVay got off to a flying start, and your staff is still with you, so obviously you're doing something right besides baking. How did you prepare yourself for the new role as business owner before you opened?
I just really wanted to create an environment where communication is really valued, and if anybody ever has an issue working there, that it would be an open place to talk about whatever issues there are. Kitchens can be very difficult places to work.
I watch those shows. They're
Yeah.
mean.
It can be a really hostile environment, and I wanted to create a space where people actually felt like they could breathe and we were doing things with good energy, and I think that translates into the food. If you're doing things sort of hastily and not really thinking about it and just going through the motions, it just doesn't come out as good. And we're using really amazing ingredients, so I think having being able to provide that for people as a place, it's a place that I always wanted to work, with somewhere where like your opinions and your creativity is valued amongst anything else in your humanity. So we just wanted to translate that into the food we're making too.
Does good feelings translate into good tasting food?
I think it does. I think it has a huge importance, and especially if I just remember having the experience of not being happy in the situation that I was in, and something wouldn't come out right, or I would mess it up because I wasn't totally focused on it. So I think it is a creative experience, and if you're not feeling good about it or not happy with your environment, then it's going to translate into what you're making.
But you came up with it's been kind of a circuitous route as an entrepreneur. You had the pop-up?
Yeah, we did pop-ups for 2.5 years, and we did the farmers market. So coming from those, we were able to build relationships with the neighborhood and the community that we were in, and also all of our vendors. So I know all of the farmers who make our produce. I know the millers who mill our flour. We know where it comes from. We're really passionate about making sure the ingredients have, it's a single source place. Like, we know where everything is coming from.
And a lot of it's local.
Yeah, most of it. 90% of it is local.
One of the things I loved about both of your stories is the fact that you chose your schools based on New Orleans and just kind of fell in love with the city. Matt, did you just come down for like orientation or admissions? What happened?
Yeah, no, I came down with my parents to see the school. I'd never been to New Orleans before, and we had been a bunch of other places, and I think it was, within moments. You've heard this story before, that we got to New Orleans and drove through, and I was hooked.
Me too.
I remember that night I actually went to my dad took me to see a Dr. John show.
Well, that's cheating.
It was game over. So really, I never looked anywhere else after that. So.
Wow.
Yeah, same story.
You're a music person yourself, did you?
Yeah, I moved here. I mean, we went to look at Loyola, and I had never been to New Orleans before. But I've had a lot of family come through here and live here over time, so I knew a lot about it. And then my uncle, who lives here part-time, took us to Frenchman Street, and I just fell in love. I was like, oh, this is it. I'm not going anywhere else. And I moved here a couple months after that. So.
And Matt, can you give us the chronology of what you get an idea for a place, you've physically found the location. Do you then go out and raise money for it?
Yeah, it's usually starts with the challenge, like the particular need that we see within a community, whether it's affordable housing or creative workspace, a particular restaurant or retail use, and then we'll start to develop a plan around that and look to identify a site. Sometimes it could start with a building, and then the plan develops around the building, kind of match the need with the building. And then as that comes together, we'll go and run parallel paths through design and programming and financing at the same time. So each project is kind of like its own individual startup.
Because I remember, I guess one of your first projects was over on Tulane Avenue, which took amazing guts on your part, by the way, if we remember what Tulane Avenue used to look like. When you were pitching that to financiers, without a track record, that must have been pretty tough. I assume it's getting easier because of how well you've done.
Progressively, yeah. But we tend to gravitate toward challenging projects, and I think that's what's fun. The post-Katrina years were a challenge. It was twofold. It was the projects themselves, but also convincing people to invest in New Orleans, and that we had a bright future and bright prospects.
Christina, I would use the term, you have kind of a cult following. There's a big line out in front of now the other cults have not worked out well. I think you remember Charles Manson, but how did you do it? I mean, you were, you almost claim that you didn't come from a business background and all, but was it just great food and people found it? That isn't usually how it works.
I think that, social media had a huge role in it. I started it about 5 years ago now. So I started it as a way to be creative outside of work, and I really wanted to learn how to do food photography. And so I just started experimenting at home and putting pictures online, and part of it was, how can I connect with people through this platform to show that we have such an abundance of beautiful food in Louisiana, and how can I translate that to people and connect with people? And over time, it just grew, and it worked, and I was able to develop a lot of relationships through that. And pop-ups, and then I did wholesale for a bunch of cafes, and then it just grew into this thing. And then I quit my job, and then every Saturday we had pop-ups at Mosquito Supper Club, and I was able to do that, and it was an amazing thing.
And you worked at Willa Jean's?
I did. I was there briefly. My mentor worked there, and I was part of the bread program there.
Matt, is that one of your buildings?
It is, but before that I was going to say the food is incredible. So I didn't know that we were doing this afternoon together, and I was there Saturday
you were at her
morning
shop?
At her
Thank
shop
you.
with my kids, yeah. So we, I have a 3.5-year-old. She got a biscuit that I think was like the size of her head, but absolutely loved it. So we're big fans.
Thank you.
Oh, and is Willa Jean's
But
her?
yes,
Is it part of the?
Willa Jean's in one of our developments.
Yeah.
Yep.
That is great. You're listening to Out to Lunch. I'm Peter Raschuti. I'm talking with Christina Belzebre, owner and baker at LeVay Baking Company, and property developer Matt Schwartz, CEO of Domain Companies. We'll be right back after this very brief break. You're listening to Out to Lunch. I'm Peter Raschuti. I'm talking with property developer Matt Schwartz, CEO of Domain Companies, and Christina Belzebre. She's the owner and baker at LeVay Baking Company. Christina, I wanted to ask you about what we always talk about is the city getting better and better, and I guess this is a Matt question too. But we talk about the pros and cons of gentrification. I mean, you were in the Bywater. What have you done? What I read is that you've done a lot of work beyond a business. You've done a lot in the community. Is that how you're kind of facing this issue, or?
In terms of being in certain neighborhoods, yeah, I think it's really important to know who your neighbors are. In every neighborhood that I've ever lived in, I've always been close with the block and like the people who are around. And I think the same goes for when I was at Mosquito Supper Club, and just getting to know the people around you and forming connections with them. I think that's vital in this city, because though every neighborhood not only has its own character but its own little community, and I think it's really important to keep those connections alive. And that goes for, I've lived here for almost 15 years, and every neighborhood I've lived in, I've had those connections, and it's in people that I used to live next to 5 years ago when I started Levy still come to the bakery now. And it's, being able to see that process and see the people who kind of watched you do it, and they're still coming. I mean, it's a huge thing. It's New Orleans. That's what New Orleans is.
We have a lot of very good souled business people on the show, but you two are particularly. Matt, you were starting out when you went on your own, and I know money was tough and all of that, but you started off right from the beginning being in green buildings. And, at the time, it wasn't the thing everybody was talking about. Where did that goodness come from, Matt? That's what I want to know.
Well, I think coincidentally, I'm going to an event tonight with John Elstrott on conscious capitalism. So another person who had a big influence on me in college. And I think from the outset, we've really looked at our business in that way. What is the impact that we're having on the environment, the community at large, and like I said before, how could we align those interests? So, for us, that starts with, it has a lot to do with the product that we're creating in terms of its architecture, how it speaks to the neighborhood, the sustainability of the product, and then how it engages with the community. So street front retail uses, what are those uses, how the housing is programmed and who it's meant to serve, making sure it's a diverse mix of people and it aligns with that particular community.
And Christina, I was very impressed by the fact that you felt like you got a nice break from the people over at Mosquito Supper Club getting your pop, and now you're trying to, I guess, pay it forward with some other folks that needed a little lift like that.
Yeah, we started doing a couple of pop-ups here and there, and just offering the space to people who are doing their own thing. And that's how Mosquito was also born, was doing pop-ups.
Mosquitoes are born from larvae.
Well, that's true. That's another. That's another way. But it's just kind of. It's a really good time in this city. In the last 10 years of doing pop-ups and turning that into a business, I think people who live here really crave that kind of creativity from people, and they will gravitate towards it because it's this exciting new thing that's happening. And I'm really excited that I can host people and I have the space to do it. So.
I think people in this community really are looking to engage with the community at a level that I haven't seen in other places that we've worked, and that's benefited us from a business perspective. We really look, when you look at the apartment industry, a lot of people, they just want to know, where's the building, where's the apartment, how much does it cost? For us, we've really been able to make a connection with our customers at the brand level, as a company that has those principles and is engaged in that way.
So they know that if it's one of your buildings, it's going to have those.
Right. So we design programs, and a lot of this came after that post-Katrina experience, like our My Community program, for example, where each property will let the on-site team at the property choose 3 nonprofit organizations that are having an impact in that community. And then for every lease we sign or lease we renew, we let the residents choose one of those nonprofits and then make a contribution on their behalf. At the end of the year, show everybody in the building where those funds went and what they went to do. And then throughout the year, we'll try to find a number of other opportunities to help support those groups. We always looked at the projects that we do as being our impact as extending beyond just the property line. So. We have 130 employees, but we have thousands of residents locally. And our impact really isn't just what we can do with the employees, it's what we can do with the residents as well. So throughout the course of the year, we'll design volunteer events, not only for our employees, but for the residents, and work side by side And that gives people that sense of connection that I think in New Orleans people are really looking for and really enjoy. And it's a great experience.
If I had to thank you for nothing else, it would be to get rid the fact that you got rid of all its surface parking downtown.
Yeah,
it really
well,
looks like a real city now.
We did piss off a lot of tailgaters.
Oh, that's true. I didn't even think
right.
about that. You're listening to Out to Lunch. I'm Peter Raschuti. I'm talking with property developer Matt Schwartz, CEO of Domain Companies, and Christina Belzabre. She's the owner and baker at Levé, the baking company in the Garden District. Matt and Christina, this is the part of the show we call your brother-in-law. You're finally getting a bit of quiet time at your desk when the phone rings. It's your brother-in-law. He usually only calls when he's going out of town and needs someone to go by and feed his fish, but this time it's different. This time he has a business proposition for you. Matt, your brother-in-law says he got a great idea from watching Sidney Torres' TV show about property development. Sidney has his own private jet, and he's got a resort that looks like a private island in the Bahamas. Your brother-in-law says he's just been on vacation in Jamaica. He's found a great spot. It's a cove on the beach. It's beautiful, and it's for sale. Your brother-in-law says he's prepared to pick up and move to Jamaica and put the deal together for you to build a resort. What do you tell your brother-in-law? Is building a resort in Jamaica an idea with any merit at all?
First, my brother-in-law's a doctor, so I think this is a terrible idea. right off the bat. I don't want to go down this path. It's a totally different business than what we do. That particular project, Sydney's project, certainly looked very exciting and very cool. But for us, it would really be about what is it about that project that's gonna make it the most fun thing that we've ever worked on before. What is the impact it's having? What's the unique angle? Maybe it's an eco resort. Maybe there's something that
right.
We could do to push the margins on sustainability, or partner with local workforce, either in the development or the operation of it. We'd really be looking for some unique angle there, to make it something exciting.
But you are pushing your own envelope, aren't you? Like, is the Odeon? Is how do you pronounce that?
Odeon.
Odeon.
Yep.
You are pushing your own envelope in that the Odeon project you have downtown. It's a lot higher than your usual projects. It's luxury. What is it like to make that step? I mean, obviously you've got more than a standardized model in your arsenal.
Yeah, the Odeon, that reflects where we really hoped things were going when we got started in the city. So, that project is 30 stories. It's the tallest building built in the city in 30 years. And we had assembled that site as part of the South Market assemblage in 2010. But the way we approached that development was really to introduce buildings that gradually increased in terms of density as the city could support it. So, that's a project that 2 years ago would have been impossible. Certainly 5 years, certainly 10 years ago. So I think the Odeon really reflects how far the city has come, certainly since Katrina and the projects we were working on since then. It reflects the diversification and the growth of our economy, and I think that we're hopeful that taking on a project like that and having that project be successful will stimulate more investment in New Orleans and attract more people to the city.
Now, Christina, your brother-in-law says he's got 2 words that'll make your business financially secure. Do you have a brother-in-law? Okay, all right, good. You ought to get one. Here are the 2 words: king cake. He says everybody in New Orleans is looking for the holy grail, the perfect, traditional, affordable king cake, not with the cheese filling or flaky pastry or any of the other fancy recent updates, just a good old-fashioned, straight-ahead king cake. Your brother-in-law says if you develop the recipe and can turn out king cakes by the thousands from January 1st to Mardi Gras, he's prepared to quit his job and run Levé King Cakes full-time. What do you tell your brother-in-law? Could a focus on a seasonal king cake actually be a good way to finance your business?
So we do king cakes, but we kind of limit them because they are so labor intensive, and especially even though we have a new kitchen, it's not as big as our old. It's still not a huge kitchen where we can mass produce things. It's a great idea, and a lot of other bakeries do it, but I don't really want to be a mass producer of it because I still want it to be when you have it in your hands, this perfectly flaky thing that only had a couple of processes instead of like doing it on a massive scale is a completely different undertaking. But if we can control what we're doing and limit the number, then we can assure that everything comes out the way it's supposed to.
So this might not have the love and
It
good
doesn't-
feelings that come into the food.
That's the thing is like as much as we could produce, we could get another kitchen, we could get a refrigerated truck and put it outside and have more storage. I want to keep it small and manageable. So that is just my own take, just, since we're only 4 months in.
And I see you're very comfortable where you are now, and you should be. People must ask you, like at parties, are you going to scale? Are you going to open a second place?
No.
And the answer is no.
No, I am so happy with how it is right now. I think opening up a second location, if I thought about it would be 3 years from now, but nothing soon. So, yeah.
And I've got to tell you, Christina, we've been having a lot of difficulty, the producer and I, because we're trying to figure out this levee versus levy. All right, so it's not the same word. One's a verb.
Well, in French, it's to rise, it's lever, but we just call it levy because it's a play on words. It's the levy and lever, and actually, there's a baker that has a huge. She's an inspiration for what we're doing too. Margaret Howery, she's the bread woman of New Orleans, and she has a statue on Britannia and Camp Street, and her bakery was on Old Levy Street in the Quarter, which is now Decatur Street.
Matt, we talked about all your projects, and people talk about the Ace Hotel. Are you the owner of the Ace Hotel?
Yes.
You are. So you're not just the guy that put the sheetrock in and all that.
No,
So
we did that too.
And that's and the word would not be chain. It's a series of boutique hotels. So are you under a central corporate office there?
Yeah, so Ace is the company that manages the property for us.
And then you liked it so much you built one across the street?
Maison de la Luz, right? That's our new hotel that we collaborated with Ace to create a new 5-star brand.
Why do I think that if we had you on every week, you would have a different project?
I want to keep them coming. I'll try.
Whether you're an entrepreneur running a multi-state billion-dollar property business or a small Garden District bakery, one of the similar problems you have is getting away from work, even for something as simple as lunch. Christina and Matt, I really appreciate you both taking the time to join me today on Out to Lunch. This has been great. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
My guests on Out to Lunch today have been Matt Schwartz, CEO of Domain Companies, and Christina Belzebre. She's the owner and baker at LeVay Baking Company. You can find out more about Matt's buildings and Christina's bakery by following the links on our website. It's neworleans.com. The producer of our show is Grant Morris. Our technical producer is Eric Merle, and our researcher is Maggie Mendel. You can listen to the show and to past episodes of Out to Lunch wherever you get podcasts, and you can find all of our podcasts at itsneworleans.com. If you want to know what we look like, you can find photos from today's show on itsneworleans.com and on our Out to Lunch social media. These photos were taken today by Jill LaFleur. You can find more of Jill's photos at lafleurphoto.com. Out to Lunch is a production of INO Broadcasting for itsneworleans.com and WWNO 89.9 FM. I'm Peter Raschuti. Thanks for joining me. I look forward to meeting you again next week around the table here at Commander's Palace for more business, New Orleans style, on Out to Lunch.
Out to Lunch is recorded live over lunch at Commander's Palace in New Orleans. Commander's Palace serves lunch Monday to Friday, jazz brunch on Saturday and Sunday with live music, and dinner 7 nights a week. Mitchell Foreman wrote and performs all the music on Out to Lunch. You can hear Mitchell's music anywhere great jazz is sold or streamed, and at mitchellforeman.com. Major support for Out to Lunch is provided by the law firm of Jones Walker, established in 1937 with over 375 attorneys in offices throughout the U.S., providing a comprehensive range of services to a local, national, and international client base. JonesWalker.com. And by Short & Associates, legal recruiters in Louisiana and Texas. And by Basics Swim and Gym and Basics Underneath Fine Lingerie, the It's New Orleans Happy Hour podcast. And by Orange Theory Fitness, delivering fitness results for a healthier world.